Hello, everyone. Oh, welcome back to A Better Way of Life. It's the end of the week. You're feeling quite tired, I'm sure, because, it's still dark outside and, the mornings seem to get you off to a bad start. Well, they certainly do for me as well. What about you, Marianne? Are you okay?
I'm okay. I've had a week delivering training.
Yeah. What are you like with the mornings, though, when it's dark mornings and it's cold?
I've got blackout blinds, so doesn't make a huge. They were great when the kids were younger because they didn't know if it was night or day, so they'd come up and we're like, it's still nighttime.
I still don't know if it's night or
what
day.
I have to do is put my alarm at 5:45, which then gives me a 15-minute lie-in. And then it goes one of two ways. I either get up then or I don't at drag. So I get up and I go straight to the gym. Then I come back and cook meals at 7.
My morning is like something out of the army, I think. That it's military precision. It really is kind of like get up, kids, get them dressed, or make sure that they're getting dressed, make sure all of the clothes are laid out, then move them to the next point of operation. If they need washing, do the washing bit of it, then move them downstairs, get the packed lunches done, move them to this area, make sure teeth are cleaned, make sure the dog's gone out, do that, empty the dishwasher, clean the kitchen from the night before where, the teenagers have made a mess of it.
I make mine do this.
But you can't make kids do it.
This week I've been training, so I've been away, and Oliver made the packed lunches each evening.
Nice.
We made the packed lunches. I've given up sorting out clothing. Well, I sort out the clothing after. Well, the eldest 15-year-old, but yeah, both really, really good. To be fair, yeah. I'm Samuel. If I'm going away working, I'll say, "Can you go and iron my clothes?" So when I went on holiday, he ironed all my clothes for me.
There you go. First tip of the day. First way of getting a better way of life, folks, is to train your kids to do all of the stuff that we adults typically do for the kids. And then you really will have a better way of life. We've got a special guest this week. We promised you we would. In future, we're trying to have a guest a week. I want to bring to the platform Mr. Carl Jones. Hello, Carl.
Hello, Graham. Hello, Marianne.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Felt a bit fake there, didn't it? I'm sorry. Hello, everybody. How are we?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. Carl, where are you from? What is it you do?
Where I'm? Wow, God, I feel like I'm on a game show. Well, Graham.
Well, funny you should say that because in a minute you will be. All right.
So,
for anybody,
as long as there's prizes.
There'll definitely be a prize. Yeah. Okay. Go for it. Whereabouts in the world are you?
Do you know what? I've originated in the southwest pretty much all my life. I've lived in Chippenham and Swindon, and now I've settled in Cheltenham. And I have to admit, Cheltenham is a lovely, lovely town. I feel very lucky to have found this place. Let's be honest with you. Yeah, brilliant. And what do I do? Well, my passion and my love is public speaking, and I've written a book on basically how to tackle daily stress. And I am in the world of, I guess, mental health and trying to make people happier in the workplace. So that's what I do. I am a public speaker on happiness in the workplace.
Oh, fantastic. Daily stress. We just talked a little bit about daily stress. What are typically some of the things that get people stressed out of a day, Carl?
So, funny enough, you mentioned this. I have written a book, and my book is now probably about 8 years old, and I'm doing a refresh quite literally this week. I'm doing a refresh of that book, and it's brought out a lot of the things I talk about, and it's reminded me of what gets people stressed. So it's probably quite a good time of you asking me this, because I can remember now what I'd written 8 years ago. But basically, what I talk about is a button. And we all know that there's a stress button within us. It's actually I believe it's the amygdala gland or something it gets called. It sits on top of the kidneys when it gets stressed. There you go. And when it gets pushed, lots of these horrible toxins, including adrenaline, comes out, and it pumps around your body, and it helps you to either fight or flight. That's the idea. And my dog's just come in to say hello. Hello, Ford. Yes, I know. You're a big stress. Yes, you're a big stress.
Oh, do you know what the dog wants? It wants this ball. Here, fetch. Yeah, see, that works.
So the idea is that this button gets pushed quite a lot. Now, the reason why we push it is because there's a fight or flight in all of us. We know about the fight or flight. Basically, when you get in trouble, you're either going to have this adrenaline pump through your body. The toxins are going to deal with the bits that you don't need in your body so that you can stand and fight off the foe, the person that's trying to kill you or maim you, or your legs suddenly increase in speed and you can run away from it very quickly and save your life. Now, that's kind of the old caveman ways. But in today's modern society, we have something now called the freeze response, which is the only acceptable outcome. Because let's put it this way, if we feel like we're being attacked in the office by our co-workers, the last thing we want to do is punch them or run away because you're going to get sacked. So this new freeze response is now what we do. And what we do is we just hold everything together. All those toxins, all that adrenaline and everything just sits in your system and you just start shaking, the stress starts building, you just start getting ill over it. Now, if you understand that as the first concept of your button push, you can then understand and start to build up why stress happens in your body. And it doesn't matter what you do. You could be stood. And for instance, I guarantee, and when I do my talks, I have this big bucket, I call it, and lots of ping pong balls. And I get people to chuck them at me with their stress and their issues. And I know what everyone gets stressed with because they all tell me when they chuck a ping pong ball at me. Now, what they say is what they get stressed at, and this is the everyday occurrence, is people not doing what they should be doing, i.e. at work, you're waiting for something, someone's messing you around and you're desperate for it and you're going to get stressed over it. And even though you're not being attacked, because you can feel the pressure build up, you do push the button because that's what we do. That's how we're designed over millennia of our bodies going through all sorts of different changes. It's still there. People get upset about road rage incidents or traffic jams. That's just driving every day and you're sat in a car. What can you do while you're sat in the car with a seatbelt on? Nothing. You just got to suck it up. Next one is when you go shopping and you just stood in a queue and you've only got a pint of milk and the person in front of you has got an entire trolley full of stuff. And you're thinking, why don't you just let me in front of you? I could be in and out in like seconds. It's just the little things in life. Now, one of these things in a day isn't a huge thing. But with a combination of all building up, so when you go to work, you've got out of bed, you've probably had several stressful situations even before you get to work. Kids aren't getting dressed, the ironing's not done, packed lunches aren't done, you've got to drive to work, sit in traffic. When you get there, are you going to get a parking space outside work? Your stress is already high. You walk into your job and you get daily instances of people having stressful confrontations or upsets. You're just building and building and building, and your little button pushes are just building all those toxins up in your body. And then driving home the same. And the moment you walk in through the door, you just want to relax. You've got no energy left because all you've been doing is this freeze response, which takes a huge amount of energy for you to actually resolve in your body. And you basically go to bed exhausted, let alone all the stresses that happens in the evening. I haven't walked the dog. I need to cook. I need to do the washing up. I need to do the tidying. I need to sort the kids out for tomorrow. The kids done their homework, blah, blah, blah. And these just keep growing and growing. And so our everyday lives get very complex. And my rule for all of this is if you can't control it, don't worry about it. And it's really easy to say, but there's a massive, great big amount of work behind that as well as to how you deal with that. Hopefully that's a flavour of what I do and what I understand and how I deliver. But I'm sure you've got lots of questions for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What we're going to do as well is, folks, are you feeling stressed today? If you are feeling stressed today, do comment on this today. And then what we might do is we might pass those comments on to Carl afterwards as well. So he might be in touch to talk to you about your stress. Tell us what your stress points are. That would be really good. I think that some stress comes from difference as well. And the difference between us as humans. And a lot of it comes down to things like communication. Do you agree with that?
You're taking words out of my mouth, and Marianne's smiling because she's read my book. So the book basically comes in three parts. The first part is understanding stress, and the second part is about communication. Because again, when you're at work and people aren't doing what you expect them to do, it's probably down to communication. Whether that's a poorly worded email, a really bad conversation, people not speaking to you properly, or whatever. So yes, absolutely. Communication is massive. And the second part of the book is all about breaking down your tribe. and the book is called The Caveman Principles. So
Right.
in your tribe, you have 4 types, and this is all based on, again, centuries of experimentation in different personality profiling, if you like. And you've probably heard of Myers-Briggs, people that break it down into 16 people. There's people like William Marston, who has done the colours. There's even up to modern day standards. You've got people like Nigel Risner doing his zookeeper, where there's 4 animals in the zoo. And mine's no different, but mine is more personable because it attaches to a person. And in my tribe, because we all have a tribe around us, we've got a hunter, a gatherer, a healer, and a protector. And each one of those different people is, as soon as you can identify who they are, you can communicate with them better. Because Graham, you're probably the same as me. You're a yellow in olden talk. You're a monkey in zookeeper talk. But for me, you would actually be a hunter because you're the same as me. You basically just want to get on and do stuff. You're not interested in little detail. So somebody turn around and say to you, get this done, you'll probably start it, and then something really shiny will come along, and then you'd be off to do something else and not actually finish it off, and someone get really upset.
Is that true, Marianne? I've got to ask because she knows. Is that true? Is that what I am? Am I a hunter?
I think if it was your stuff, if you're doing it for work, someone else, I hope so. I think you'd be dedicated to it, but I think you do like shiny. You do.
I do like shiny things. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And for Marianne, she's really is. Now, Marianne's a flipper, so she's a healer. She's somebody who likes detail, but no, what she does is that she actually is incredibly good at changing her personality of the people around her so that she can fit in, because she doesn't want to not fit into a group. So Marianne is someone who's quite insular, doesn't really like going out a lot, but she will push herself to change just so that she can fit in and make herself more appeasing to her crowd. She wants to please everybody, really.
It's interesting you say that, because I always used to say I was a people pleaser.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
So before I was diagnosed, I was, but I think I'm a me pleaser now, not a people pleaser. So now I'm a me pleaser by actually changing to it. It pleases me to please others now, but it's about, I suppose, within my job, because actually I was thinking about what I do work-wise. Like people say, you've got all those people that you're working with, and I do think I change, but to please them.
I'm going to interject here because I went to see Marianne training the other day, right? And I noticed she said a certain thing several times in the process or in the duration of the time that I was there. What do you think it was that you said?
Oh, was it the thing you laughed at me for yesterday?
No, it's not. You said several times, and then maybe Carl can pick up on this, you're going to hate me for this. Lots of times. No. Now, I think when someone says you're going to hate me for this, they don't mean that. Am I right in that, Carl? I think actually
I would agree on that.
I think what they mean is I want to make sure that I'm pleasing you.
What that is saying is I've got some really difficult news to tell you, and you're not going to like it. And I don't want you to dislike me for telling you this issue, this problem. So I'm gonna cloud it round this big, nice, softy bit of going, you're going to hate me, but now I can deliver the horrible part of the sentence, which is you're rubbish, and you've got to do it all again.
Am I going to change career?
No, it's the way you deliver it. It's the way you make sure people are okay. It's the way you don't want to upset them. It's your communication style, and that's why you fit into the healer category. All in the olden terms, you're a blue or a dolphin or whatever else that they call it.
Are you saying I said that? Is that what I said? Did I?
Yeah, like 5 times in a row. Yeah,
Crikey.
I'm very perceptive of what people say.
I know why as well, because I was also aware of stuff that was going on. Yeah, I was aware of stuff that was going on, and I was aware of the personalities in the room as well. That those personalities normally would be just give it between the eyes, just say it as it is, and as I said before, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I suppose a lot of it is getting to know people, and so yeah, it is. You're going to hate me for saying it. I know they're not.
No.
You do it to soften the blow so that people don't dislike you.
No, but also it isn't. But also, it's not even just the dislike. So yesterday, when they did the micro teachers, there was various things I had to give feedback on, and bearing in mind as well, when Carl, you know, I've taught you, when it's people particularly that have been doing that for a long time, I'm in quite a difficult predicament there, and I've got people that are in maybe senior positions. It's quite a thing when I have to give feedback to people, particularly people that have walked in like, oh, I've been doing this for years, and I think, oh, I'm gonna have to just like burst your bubble here a little bit, just to help them grow. So yeah, I kind of have to give it like that. So yeah,
I think you're much nicer than me at giving feedback. Much nicer than me at giving
I try
feedback.
and consider the person. I try and consider the person.
I think Graham and I are pretty much the same, which is we deliver it on a platter, and then if we really need to, we'll probably chuck in a handful of humour just to make it go down better. But ultimately, you're going to get it between the eyes when it comes to us.
I definitely think that's a male. I definitely think that's quite a male. I mean, I see, because I work with males and females, and I definitely even seen the way that women give feedback. I'm generalising here because I am generalising, but men. The funny thing is, actually, again, I'm generalising. Men are for Mars, women are for Venus, type thing. But women won't like to just say it, is it? No, women will say it as it is. Men actually will skirt all around it. I see. Because they're very vulnerable. When they go into the training that I do, they're actually really vulnerable. So you get people that are top of their game. They're going to be the top of the game. That's why they're going to be doing that. They come in and all of a sudden they're really vulnerable. And I've had, you know. So
I think if you're on that side of the fence, it's a different
and that's
scenario,
why I
isn't
try
it?
to treat people with kid gloves, because I think it takes quite a lot for somebody to step out of their comfort zone. Where one guy I had on the course back top of his game, and he's like, "Oh, you know, I've had people. There isn't anything you can tell me about this," and I'm like, "Okay." And then there was somebody else that's like, "Oh, I've been doing what I've been doing years," and I sort of have to say that's great. Now if we can sort of work on how you're going to deliver that, and I don't want to burst people's bubbles, so I try quite professionally to try and get on a level. So I say that I can learn a lot from you and you can learn a lot from me.
And Marianne, that's exactly what I talk about in my book, which is, yes, we have all these different personalities, but personalities do change. And the reason I say that is because those in the workplace, for instance, me and how I present myself on this show and in front of people when I do my talks and in front of people when I'm doing my sales pitch, I'm very outward. I can hopefully show that I'm quite cheerful, quite chipper, quite this, quite that. But ultimately, when I'm at home, I am a different person. And that's when my personality changes. And in my book, I make a huge emphasis on that, which is when you're outside or when you choose to change your personality, you're not necessarily a hunter all the time. Because when I'm at home, obviously, I have family, I have people I look after. I'm not going to treat them like I would, like some of my mates down the pub, let's say. So you do change. And for you to see these people change from the people at the top of their game, who's probably a hunter, to suddenly come into an environment and they recognize that they have to be not the hunter anymore, but someone who's got to learn, they will change, but they won't know what until they get comfortable. And then when they get their feet under the table, they'll become that person, and then they'll grow back up to the hunter style. So what you're getting is quite an infant hunter, let's call it. That's probably a good term to put in my book. I need to write that down.
Yeah. By the way, have we got a copy of the book to show people? I mean, I know it's going through a change at the moment, but do you have a physical copy to show people there or not? Or what we can do is we can put a photo later. He's going like, what? Where is it now?
No, I don't. And the reason being is because I wrote the book 8 years ago, and when it all went through, that there is a story to all of this, by the way, which I don't know whether you want me to cover it now, but it's quite cool. Marianne's nodding, she knows about it. So my story is that I was a police officer for 19 years, and I saw all the different people and all the bits and pieces that I used to deal with people in the cells. I used to interview all sorts of people, from shoplifters, drug users, you name it, to wife beaters, to serial domestic offenders, to rapists, attempt murders, GBHs. I was a detective. I did all of this. So I saw everyone over the table from me. And I very quickly realized that all of these people you can't treat the same. And most of the cops I used to work with used to have a script in front of them. and they used to read it off. Did you do this? And they had no personality and they had no engagement. So over the years, I realized that if you treat people differently and you've got to read the individual and you've got to read the room very quickly, you can get a much better result. And for me, it worked incredibly well because I used to have a huge number of admissions. I used to literally go to interview, come back, and my skipper would say, another cough, we used to call it, another confession. And you go, yeah. And you go, wow. And everyone on the team would be like, that's 6 in a row.
How did he do it? How did he do that?
And all it was is I read the person and I didn't stick to any script. Yes, I did it lawfully. Yes, I did it legally. Yes, there was structure to it, but it was structured around the person, not around the process. So there's my experience. So 2015, I wrote this book. Anyway, moving forward from that, an incident happened moving back from that, an incident happened back in 2011. And on my website, you will see the full story of it. Basically, again, I was out at a domestic incident, middle of the night, and whilst I was trying to deal with it, out of nowhere, the bloke pulled a gun at me and shot at me 6 times. There we go. One jaw's open. Marianne's already heard this, and yeah, I had to deal with it. My colleague basically ran off and left me. I had to fight him. I had to fight my colleague. I had to fight his friend. My colleague was gone. Whilst in all of this, his dog jumped up and tried biting me, so I had to fight the dog off. Whilst at the same time, I had his partner right behind me and a 8-month-old baby upstairs. So I was literally just, funny enough, I went off to London, got a bravery award for that. So thank you very much. Who was it at the time? Oh, Theresa May was there presenting those out. But it should have been David Cameron, but he didn't want to. But we're not getting into politics here. So I went off to number 10, had a lovely time. But the problem was in 2016, I knew something wasn't right afterwards, but 2016, something hit me between the eyes and I just felt it in here. And 3 years later, I was medically retired and diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. It literally wiped out my life. Now, in that meantime, I'd already written my book in 2015, had it published then, 2016. And it was kind of like an old life that I sort of had to leave behind because you just need to move on with life. But now, 4 years later, I am stronger, I'm better. I have learned coping mechanisms of how to deal with those sorts of things. And now I'm ready to sort of reopen it all and get back on the caveman principles trial and get the book back out. Hence why the book's not prominent in a lot of my talks. But as you brought it up,
So, Carl, it wasn't that long.
Can we just stop for a second and just... That's amazing, mate. That is absolutely... I want to swear right now, but that is absolutely amazing. Really, really amazing. If there's anyone watching right now and you're not touched by that, what's the matter with you? Honestly, that is quite a story.
So it wasn't long after when I met you. It wasn't long after, Carl.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you and I have been friends for a number of years, haven't we? I can't remember where it came from. We sort of linked up, didn't we, on LinkedIn? And then about a year or two after that, I think you asked me to, or you offered for me to come and do a training with you, which I did. That was what, 2020?
My first one under my banner. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
2020. When did 2020? Maybe it's 2021. It would have been then.
Oh, there we go. So that's all before. But again, you've heard most of that before. And, even back then when I did the course with you and I was doing, a terrorist in your bathroom when I did my bath bombs. Show and tell.
He showed us
how to
make bath bombs. That was his micro teach. Like you do when you've gone through that, you're obviously going to teach people how to make bath bombs.
Yeah. Carl, can I ask, if it's okay, out of going through that experience and now revisiting that material and now relaunching this, what have you drawn from that vulnerability in reshaping any of the content of the book, and what have you kind of learned from that episode of your life that you've now put into this that you're sharing with people?
I consider myself incredibly lucky. I think my personality, what I went through, how I got to where I am right now. I mean, there's a lot of personal icky detail we probably shouldn't be going into in here. But what I can tell you is that when the chips were down, I was persecuted at work. I was disciplined basically for being ill. Went through 4 rounds of discipline. All of them were completely unfounded.
I've got another open mouth now. Yeah.
And then I was medically retired. Then because of that, I had lost my house. My wife walked out on me. I was suicidal. A couple of attempts later, but still here. Had to rebuild, and hence why it was such a tough time for me. Again, there was much more detail in that, but that's really is a big overview. Coming out the other side, I think it was just my willpower was quite honestly the only thing that got me through. There was nothing else. You could go to all sorts of different therapists. You can speak to all sorts of different people. You can do lots of things. But ultimately, it's down to the individual. And I do consider myself a very lucky person that I found a way through. Now, because of those instances and because of the story and because of where I found myself and how I got through it, there is already a second book being written, but I've decided to redress the caveman ones that will take us through. And it's a working title at the moment, but it basically is my career in the police and what happens when you basically develop PTSD and how you can get through it. So there will be another book. It'll be a personal journey. And they all say is one person's journey is another person's map to get through these things. I'm hoping that that's what it will do. And that's my drive. And that's what I think my passion is now, is to help others, and always has been.
Yeah. I'm going to invest in your books, Carl, for a start, because I want to know more. When you were talking earlier, I don't read a lot of books in that kind of sector, right? I tend to read autobiographical books by musicians, because I think they tell us a lot. But one of the books that I have read, or the series of books that I have read, is the Thomas Erickson books that start with "Surrounded by Idiots," because I saw it at an airport and I thought it's a damn good title, and I wanted to read it. And that talks about color theory. And what I liked about that and what he talks about in that book is that actually our perception a lot of the time is we are surrounded by idiots because other people don't think or behave in the same way as we do. I guess, and you've had, probably more than most people have had to, over the last few years, you've had to kind of suck up idiocy and go, yes, but can I try and understand where they're coming from so that actually I can be in a better place myself? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, obviously what I've gone through has been quite traumatic. It is life-changing. It's something that no person would ever wish on another person to have to go through. But because of what I have gone through and where I am, and hopefully for the person that I am, I know I can help others. But what it has done is given me a huge insight into what people are going through. And when you're dealing with something quite traumatic, no one can see what it is. And again, the old analogy of if you fell over and give yourself a black eye, people are going to see it and say, "Oh my, are you okay?" Because they see it. If you fall over and break your arm, you walk around in a plaster cast, people will see your broken arm and go, "Oh, how did you do that? Are you okay? Are you in pain?" If you're suffering from anything in the head wise, no one will ever see it. No one will ever know. First interaction they have with you, if you bite their head off because you're stressed or you're upset, you're going to basically be called a name, and you're going to be referred to as that name for a long period of time until you get over the stress and people can see who you are. So for me, that's a massive learning curve. People clearly saw me as very stressed, very upset, and suicidal, very depressed, all the rest of it. And although I was on the surface, deep down inside, I was still me, and I couldn't show people what I was or who I was because all this stuff was clouding on top. So those massive bits of insight has helped me to understand, even if I'm dealing with somebody, it might be because lack of knowledge, so not knowing what they're doing. I've also noticed as well, and I know lots of people probably talk about it, is the imposter syndrome. There's so many people out there that are basically just trying to survive, fake it till you make it. Honestly, that number is growing, and it's huge. People doing work and jobs and understanding stuff, or trying to show they understand it before they do. So you've got to deal with them as well. You've got people who are stressed. You've got people who are quite literally just not interested because, they do enough to survive and they're quite happy with that. They're not interested in striving on. So you've got all these different people out there. And yes, there's personalities within them, but it takes all those different personalities within those different sectors of people. So, yeah, you do have to look deeper than what you see on top. And I think that's what I've basically learned over the time.
Don't you think, though, the more that you, as you said, the more you go through, I think quite often people back off or they don't ask because there's this need that people feel like need to fix things. And I know for me over time, I remember, I laugh now, it's not funny at all. After my dad died, which was suicide, people crossed the road or people didn't speak to me. And there was lots of gossip about it, all that kind of thing. It wasn't juicy at all. But and I remember I wasn't allowed to go to work. I was signed off because I worked on a help desk for the council. And so I stayed off. I was 24 at the time, so I sat at home. And I sat at home. And I sat at home on my own and looked at four walls. And it was terrible. And I remember my friend down the road, she's a vicar now, but she was a nurse. And she said, "Oh, would you mind if I come and see you?" And I said, "I'd really love it, actually." Because I asked if I could go into work. And I said, "Can I just come in and sit in our team meeting?" So I said, "I just need to just be around normality or something because otherwise..."
Do you know that whole area is a massive, massive problem, I think, in workplace culture. I do some work with a guy called Dan Williams who runs Visualize training and consultancy. So he's partially sighted and he helps people that are partially sighted or have hearing impairments as well within business. And one of the things he finds is the amount of people that get insured out of work when they start to have a sight problem or they start to have a hearing problem, as opposed to getting helped to stay in work and be productive within work. And of course, what happens is that they get worse because they now no longer have that thing which was, their purpose in life. So we're very, very good at trying to sort of like go, "Oh, that's difficult. Put it over there."
I mean, I was literally, I don't know how long I had off. And interestingly, my mum went back to work not long after because she said, "I just need to get back to work." She worked in procurement for the NHS, so she's allowed to go back. And she said, so I was off. And I've still seen throughout life since when people, I'm somebody that will talk about, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'll say how things are, to which people quite often will see you as too much, and that's fine because as I talked last week, I changed my audience then, because if you think I'm too much, then bye, because that's who I am. And I say to people, you don't need to fix me. Sometimes I just want to spew it out and just say it so it's not inside. And I think if people, and that's probably, like, Carl, you've been through what you've been through, and I'm sure Graham the same. And I think when you then become a lot more aware of all this crap that people go through. And we talked today, Graham, about that assumption thing. And I know I keep talking about the Maslow thing. And it's all about looking at those personalities and thinking, I'm not trying to fix you. And so now, if anybody's gone through something bad, or when someone said they've lost somebody, I'll say, there's absolutely nothing I can say to make this right for you.
And that is exactly what I teach now. So the slap technique is exactly that. When people see that you've got a broken arm, they know they can't do anything for you. They've just got to wait for time for the bones to heal. When people think that you've got some sort of mental health condition, they feel like they have to help you. They don't. It's like a broken arm. All you need to do is support them. That's it. You don't need to help them. You don't need to stick them through a therapy session with them. You don't need to do anything. You just still need to let them be who they are. They know what they're doing, and you just need to support them. So,
Yeah. Can I
Marianne,
help you with that
hit the
bit of
nail
the
on the head.
business? Can I make you a cup of tea? Can
No,
I
sometimes
whatever it is?
Even I remember after I met Tim, my husband. I remember it wasn't long after. I look at it now. I thought it was ages after, maybe 2 or 3 years after my dad had died. And I remember, I do tend to. I thought, how on earth do you deal with? I was 24. I'd lost my dad, you know, and I thought I can't keep crying about stuff. So I put it in a box, and every so often I'll get it out, and that's fine. And I remember my friend who was a therapist. She was like, "You must feel angry." I said, "No." I said, "I wasn't angry with him when he was alive, so why would I now?" And she seemed really confused that I wasn't angry. And I said, "I'm really sorry to burst your bubble, but you know, I'm not." And I remember being in the car one day with Tim, and he was driving, and something had come on. It was on Hollyoaks. I can't remember what it was, and I was telling him about it, and all of a sudden I welled up. And he just took my hand and he sort of held it, let me cry for a minute. And then he just started talking, and it was just perfect. It was just, you know, so I say to people, just if you try and push me down and don't let me say, it's either going to come out or I'm going to be angry. Usually I'm angry because it's like someone trying to shut you up, or I'm just going to, but equally, often it's not letting people wallow in that, and it's finding that balance. And it was just perfect at that moment that he just let me have it, held me for a minute, and then started talking about something else. And it was wonderful. And I think if people could just let people have that rather than thinking they've got to fix them, because you're not going to fix it. Like you said, you're not going to fix it. You're not going to fix it. Sometimes people just need to talk about it. And it's no, like you said, just get to know that person and know, and then they've got that trust in you. It's not you're just doing it just to change the subject or whatever. So yeah.
And there may be people watching this that think, well, but I ain't going through anything particularly bad, or I've never been through anything particularly bad, and so this doesn't necessarily relate to me. But stress can come from anywhere, and actually how we perceive stress, I mean, actually it changes as you go through things, because until you've gone through something of a particular size or nature, you still think other things are stressful, etc. And Carl, I'd like to say what I do on a daily basis on LinkedIn is I do a little poll. I've done it every day for about 4 years. And what I've brought along today for you to have a little look at, and to give a little comment on as well, is a couple of polls from the last few days, which are kind of modern stresses, which may be things that are not necessarily overly stressful for some people, but are for others. So let's just have a little look at these. So here's the first one. How do you feel when you see someone has read your message online, but they don't respond? Right now, 61% that say it doesn't bother them at all. Right, but there's still quite a lot of people in there where it either drives them mad or it makes them quite anxious. Well, anything to say on that, Carl?
Yeah, this is generational change, isn't it? When we let's if we take it back to another scenario, is if we talk about olden times. Now we talk about cavemen, we talk about everything else, but moving forward, even like I'm looking at our age group here between the three of us, our parents had one career, one job for their life, one house for their life, and that was it. That's all they had to deal with in their whole lifetime. Then
pretty spot on.
You know, yep. Maybe our parents, sorry, that was our grandparents, and maybe our parents started to try a few different things. I mean, probably moved house a few times when I was a kid and all the rest of it. So they had, you know, that to deal with, but they pretty much had one career that they stuck to. Come forward to
only one phone as well in the house.
That's right. No mobile phones. Yes.
One TV.
So that's that. Now, modern times, let's talk about us. I don't know about anybody in this group, but I'm already on my 4th, maybe 5th career, if I want to count them properly. So that's 5 changes in my life. I've moved house several times. I'm on my 3rd marriage. Let's not go there either. What we have accepted now is a lot of change, and that's probably why we're quite stressed. Let's talk about modern times, and people now no longer have just a phone call or a conversation down the pub. everyone is online, everybody is online. And that's where your interactions are. And people actually enjoy to be interaction with others. Whether you stood in a pub with a pint in your hand, having a chat and a laugh with your mate, and you get left out, you need to force yourself back into the conversation again.
Right.
Exactly the same on social media. If you don't have anybody commenting on there, you're not having that interaction, and you start getting upset as to why aren't people interacting with me? I'm a nice person. Why don't you? You know, that's why people get stressed. And I think that's what it is, because we're now moving into an online generation where people don't go to the pub anymore, hence why the pub trade is dying. It's nothing to do with anything else, but it is online, I'm afraid. And let's be honest as well, it's not necessarily just online. Where's my phone? There it is. Since the introduction of smartphones, we have now become absolutely dependent on these things. There is nothing else in the world that we would ever leave the house without apart from our smartphone. You can leave the house without a key. You go, do you know what, I'll phone somebody to let me in.
Not necessarily a bad. It's funny because I was talking to you about this, I think yesterday or today, Graham, I can't remember. But for many people, I hear some people that are very anti. That was it. I was saying to you about when Tim used to work nights, and I was on my own. I was on my own 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, and I had a child that didn't sleep either. And that phone, for me to be able to talk to people, and people say, well, you can just talk to people on the phone. I said, I can't. I've got a baby that doesn't sleep. I'm trying to. And so it's sort of having that understanding that some people get on their high horse about it and get very high and mighty, like, oh, but actually what works for one, again, I do this in my training and say, you've got your own values, you've got your values, and somewhere along the way here, we just need to all be respectful of each other and say that, particularly when you've got, I don't know, some people that might not want to. Phones have been really good in some senses because people can join in with things that they wouldn't have done once upon a time. I do have a thing about WhatsApp, WhatsApp chat groups. It's funny because I used to have, have got RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And that was the kind of thing that, so for me, it used to be feeling like I was paranoid because people didn't talk to me somewhere. I now feel like I'm in control of it now because I know about it. But WhatsApp groups, I can see exactly. I don't care now. I just take myself out of it, or it happened the other day on a group, and I said, "Does anybody see my comments on it?" So I just front it up. It up now. But I can totally see that people do because you get clickiness. Absolutely, but as you said, it's just. I think.
It's just the fact that we expect an immediacy to everything as well, and it's the fact that you've there, because what in the actual post I was saying as well is that the big problem is the read receipt, because you know that someone's read it, but you then wonder why aren't they responding? It's almost like, well, so I know you now have that information, but you've now chosen to ignore me.
Egotistical.
Of course it is, but everybody is egotistical ultimately, and therefore people want to know, what have I said? What have I done? Have I written it in the wrong way? Do you know people? We and the thing is, we start making those assumptions, and then we start creating scenarios within our own head. It's very, very easy to do that in a world where we're not eye to eye. Very, very easy to do that.
If we go back to what you said at the beginning, Carl, when you learn what people's personalities are like, though, that for me, I think I've talked to you before, Graham, about it. Now I tend to step back and I go, did you actually have you got reason to think that Carl might be ignoring you or might be annoyed with you?
No.
I tend to take a step back from it and I have a quick word with myself and then think about that.
And that's all part of the learning. And that's how, so, and this is why I was saying, when in today's society, because we've changed so fast, we haven't yet got the coping mechanism behind it. We can't rely on the changes in our bodies to catch up, like getting rid of all these stress button pushes and everything like that, because that took millennia. It's not going to happen overnight. We've got lots of stuff that's going on constantly, new apps coming out, new social media coming out, new this, new that. There's nothing behind it to support those people that are struggling with it. And people do struggle with it. And it's that we need to do. There's no coping mechanisms. There's no, right or wrong of doing anything until someone goes, oh, I don't like that. And then it comes into a bun fight rather than actually sorting it out. So, yeah, I can see why it's just a huge issue.
And a lot of this, back to what you said last week, Graham, assumptions.
Yeah.
Is that, and that's when we said that when you get arguments.
Carl, if you like that one, here's another one just for us to kind of finish on today. Do you think some people, I spelled people wrong there. Do you think some people get hangry? Okay.
I think that's an excuse.
Is it?
Well, let's put it this way. If we all agreed on what manners were and how we treat people correctly, it doesn't matter whether you're hungry or whether you're full or whether you're angry or you're upset. If you accept that society has to function in a nice way, and wouldn't that be lovely if everyone treated everyone with love and respect? It'd be a great place. But we don't. We have now turned into a generation or a society that's quite happy to sling some mud first and not worry about it until later. And just because you're hungry, that's the excuses for you to do that. And so I don't agree with it. I understand the sentiment and the reason for it and why people can use it as an excuse. But ultimately, suck it up, sunshine. These people deserve some love and respect from you. You shouldn't be nasty. You shouldn't be angry just because you haven't had a Mars bar in the last half hour.
Exactly. Don't you think that's quite scary, though, right? That's 79% out of 336 votes on LinkedIn say they do get hangry. Well, actually, they don't.
I disagree.
Yeah, well, Well, what it means is that generally people have dips and troughs in terms of their mood during the day.
But different people.
Is it related to food at all or not? Probably not. It may just as well be related to the fact that, they don't necessarily like their job. And therefore, then they've got nothing to look forward to that day, or they're not looking forward to it in the right way. It could be just as related to a lack of caffeine in the system as it is anything to do with food.
Or is it a personal thing then?
I just think
some people I can go all day without eating and it will make absolutely no difference to me. And I know I went paintballing with Samuel a while ago, and I joined in with him and his friends. They did ask me. And after the second game, we stopped for a break, and I watched his motivation and his enthusiasm literally nosedive, and it was lunchtime. Literally, we didn't get angry with me, but that's when people's tolerance, I suppose, gets.
I think your energy level can go down if you haven't had the right food. I think if you haven't got the right diet, then you may be releasing the wrong chemicals in your body to.
Do you know what you saying that? The reason why you've got a bad diet is probably because you're stressed, because you don't have time to eat properly. You don't have time to prepare your food properly. You don't have time to sit down and enjoy it. You probably sat with it on your lap in front of the TV. So all of those combinations, hangry is just an excuse for you either being stressed and not being able to manage the situation. So
I've seen it a lot this week because I was working away. The amount of people that I saw. I was staying in a Premier Inn, and the number of men. I literally, when we went into the restaurant this one evening and then at breakfast, it was literally me and one other woman, and it was probably 98% of men, which I thought was quite an interesting thing. But also looking at the number of people then that are working out on the road and then having to have meals that aren't the meals. So the guys that I was teaching, they literally are out on the road all the time, and I said I couldn't do it. It would be, and like you say, the effect it then has on people's body.
For me, it's a bit like the whole, and you see this on social media. Monday's a bad day, and then Wednesday's hump day. We almost kind of try and build into our week a cycle of it's getting through. But from a psychological point of view, actually, if you start the week thinking, I'm excited for this week, right? I've got all of these things that I want to achieve. And actually, you start every day from that point of view. And I'm not saying you can every day.
No, if
you actually start from a positive point of view, you actually enjoy it more.
Totally.
Full stop. Right?
I always say every day is the opportunity for something amazing to happen.
Correct. And
Well, you could just say every day is your amazing opportunity, because not anybody else gets that.
Yeah. And almost kind of proof in the pudding is my little boy who's being assessed for ADHD at the moment. He hates Wednesdays at school, but what we've started doing is not telling him it's Wednesday when we go on a Wednesday, right? Yeah. And do you know what? He doesn't have a problem, because now it's not Wednesday. He'll discover sometime during the day that it is Wednesday, but by then, if he's actually having a good experience on that Wednesday, but as soon as what he's displaying is what we see all of the time in adulthood. If we start by going, oh, today's hump day, we're starting off
things to be.
Yeah, we start to look for it. So it's an interesting one. What do you think out there? Is being hangry a real thing, or actually are we just finding ways of like going, well, yeah, that's because of this, when actually it's more to do with just how we're positioning ourselves in terms of
a thing now, don't they? Life. Everything has to be a thing now. Does that make sense? Well, everything's a thing. Can't just be.
Lack of responsibility, lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We're going to say thank you to Carl for coming in. Just plug the book one last time. So the book's called.
It's called The Caveman Principles, but you might want to wait for the new right, or get both copies and compare them.
Or just contact Carl and say, put me down for a new copy of the book when the new copy's there, and he'll put you on a mailing list ready for the book when it comes out, because that would be good.
When's it coming?
Oh, I'm still in rewrite stage.
Sometime soon.
Because I love my music, and I just want to do things differently on LinkedIn and all of these other platforms. I'm going to tell you what my record of the week is, and then everyone else can tell me what they're listening to at the moment. So thank you to Brown Bear, who sent me his latest album, Demons, which I think is quite appropriate given the conversation today. Which is fantastic album. It was up for a Scottish Music Award this year as well. So that's what I've been listening to this week. What have people been listening to? Carl?
I'm really sad. I've been listening to loads of Kygo. It helps me concentrate when I write. They just have that beat behind me. I just get into it. So lots of Kygo.
Lovely. Brilliant. Marianne?
Me, I heard on something the other day. It was it was on an advert actually. Olamore, Erasure. It's great.
Erasure. Oh yeah.
It was on an advert. It's on a car advert. Can't remember what car advert. Sorry, car advert.
Really?
But I can't remember what you were. But I put that in my foot because I loved it. It's great now because it brings all of, when I put it in Amazon Music, it brings all that genre in. It's great. Love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have that, and I've been traveling.
I love that whole that whole period. Give a little respect.
All that stuff. Great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there you go. Had we had time, we would have done a music quiz as well, but we haven't got time for that. So it's you've been let off, Carl. But I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. Please, if you haven't connected with Carl on LinkedIn or any of the other platforms, we will put the links in so you can connect with Carl. Hope you found today's conversation interesting. We try and do something a little bit different here on this podcast. It's not one thing or another. It's all of those things combined. It's a little bit of almost like a magazine show, but with some sensibility to it as well. If you've enjoyed this, do share it with people who have got common sense. Probably best not to share it with people who are thick, because they just won't get it. All right, just saying. And what? No, it's true. No, let's not beat about the bush.
Or they might learn.
Oh yes, they might learn. Sorry, I always get that wrong. If you're thick and you'd like to learn, please watch this. You enjoy it.
Pretty good that given what I do, that I want people to learn.
You can see why I get in trouble, Carl. till next time, thanks for watching this. We'll be back again, same time, same place next week. Have a good rest of your Friday. Bye for now.